You're listening to the Companion Gundog Podcast. I'm your host, Grayson Guyer, and today it's just me and Althea out here on the canoe. I'm in between classes currently, and I had planned to keep this day blank on the calendar and get out to some public land and do a little hunting, maybe float. And right now we have squirrel and rabbit in. That's about it. This year I was unable to make my normal trip north, which is fine. We've got a lot of travel at home. We have the all-important U8 soccer playoffs going on currently. And so, I'm just trying to fulfill my responsibilities here at home. I'll have plenty of time to hunt this year. I still may make a trip north somewhere at some point. And we're gonna also take a trip to the Orlando, Florida area in February. So it's just pure domestic bliss and kind of keeping the magic for a kid. And with that said, I've been spending a lot of time trying to get him in the woods with me, and we've been enjoying that a lot. I think I got a deer crossing up in front of me. Boy, I sure wish I could turn the camera around. It may just be a bird, but I'm gonna try and pull my phone out real quick and zoom in. You guys bear with me a little bit. From here, it's just far enough these old eyes can't quite make it out, but maybe I can zoom in. If it ain't a deer, it's something big. He's out there, so I'll take a little video on my phone here. Show you guys if we get the opportunity, but I don't know. If it is, and we can confirm it later, I'll slap that little 5-second video into this YouTube video somehow. But for those that are with me, I hope you are. Go check it out on YouTube today. I'm out on the canoe on our home water because I was able to sneak out a little bit. And I guess what I was getting at earlier is I'd planned to take this day and get out and hunt some public and float some public. And kind of I wasn't sure whether I was going to take Althea or Billy. Billy's doing really good in the canoe. But either way, I had to take my wife's car in this morning, so that kind of put a dent in the morning. And I took a big run with Billy and had a nice time, but didn't really see much of anything. And so what I'm going to do now is just paddle around a little bit, try to give you guys a little bit of an idea of how beautiful it is here in the Piedmont of North Carolina, down on the Yadkin Valley, or in the Yadkin Valley, I reckon. Right now we're paddling, I guess I'll be honest with you, we're paddling an area, a reservoir on Abbotts Creek. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today, because I really don't have too much to talk about in the way of dogs and training. For those of you that have been keeping up, I've been doing about a weekly meeting, which I guess we'll skip one or two here, with my friend Nate Zarnota on his podcast, or it's on his YouTube feed, so you guys go check that out at the Iron Oak Dog Company. I want to say he calls it Dog Trainer Confidential. And we just get on there and nerd out, and that's kind of scratched that itch for me. But it does not scratch this particular itch for me. And so I'm glad you're joining me today. But with that said, I think what this is going to be is just me trying to come up with a neat little story to tell and spend some time on the canoe and share a little bit of what my home is like and let you guys kind of see my dogs in action while we paddle around on the canoe. And so today's story is going to be one that that I was inspired by an article I read today, and I'm going to have to pull this out and find this young man's name for you. All right, and so the story I want to talk about, or at least tell a bit of today, was inspired by an article I just read by a young man from this area named Harrison Idle. He wrote an article in Field Ethos that has to do with Abbotts Creek, which is where we are right now, and I'm getting ready to get off this reservoir and start paddling up the creek. But it's a ghost story, and it has to do with a hunter down here, and it really somewhere in this little area, out with his dogs one day, and his dogs go a little crazy, and he sees a pair of green orbs, and he comes to discover that somewhere in 1780 or 1781, General Nathaniel Greene was leading Lord Cornwallis on a wild goose chase around the Carolinas, and mostly in North Carolina, what they called the Race to the Dan. And for those that don't know, Cornwallis was he was kind of the bigwig general for England during the Revolution. And he ended up down here, and you can see we're kind of stuck on a sandbar here, so I'm going to just get out, keep talking, and find a little deeper water for us. Man, we have had so little rain in the last, 2 months that, it is just barely passable out here. It's good that it's hard bottom, though. I'm going to try to get us pointing in the right direction. I can't hardly do anything with this boat right now, but once we get past this little sandbar here, we'll be all right. Enjoy that video of Althea wondering what in the world I'm doing. There's just no water. We're finally getting some much needed rain today. After this, like I said, pretty much the month of September, the months of September and October got very little water, which, was kind of good. The corn was done growing. The corn came in pretty good. I'm assuming the wind noise is pretty bad on this thing today. I'm sorry. I could have put one of those little fuzzy things on there, but I don't know how to do that yet. But now that we got a little water, let's go back to telling a story, see if we can get in the mouth of this creek and get a little bit of sheltered water and get out of the wind here. But it's interesting that, we finally got a little rain, and I guess the way it worked was Greene was kind of a bigwig for us, and Cornwallis was a bigwig for the Brits. They're fighting down here in the Southern Campaign. And for those of you that have seen the movie The Patriot, the South Carolina campaign kind of finished off with the Battle of Cowpens. And Daniel Morgan was one of Greene's guys. And of course, the famous Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox. Morgan and Marion kind of handled what was going on in South Carolina, and Bannister Tarleton was a general under Cornwallis, and he got whipped at Cowpens, and that really set Cornwallis off, and it was kind of a campaign of retribution. But either way, what ends up happening is Cornwallis takes it upon himself to come to North Carolina and start chasing Greene around. And Greene kind of sees the writing on the wall, kind of recognizes what he can get away with and what his real strategic objective is. And so it's more about Green just trying to deplete Cornwallis's resources in the, between 1780 and 1781. They're wasting a bunch of time, wasting a lot of energy, wasting a lot of men in these skirmishes they're having to and fro. And kind of an interesting story happens a little downstream of here. Abbotts Creek runs into the Yadkin River in what's now High Rock Lake, and if you go to the north end, there's a ridiculous boat ramp there at a place called York Hill. For anybody that lives in this area, you know exactly what I mean when I say it's ridiculous, especially during duck season. People treat it like it's Bayou Meta, and they go get in fist fights and slash each other's tires over the couple dozen ducks that ever settle around there. It just gets way too much hunting pressure to be any fun, so I spend very little time down there. But it's a really neat area. It's an area called Shallowford. And in that race to the Dan at the shallow ford there, right near Salisbury, where Highway 85, Interstate 85 crosses the Yadkin River now, Cornwallis really got close to Green one time. And Green got to the shallow ford just as a big rainstorm came on, and he was able to get him and his men across before Cornwallis caught up to him. And so between the storm and the fact that Green and his guys had kind of gotten all the ferries over to the side they were aiming to get to, they lost Green there. Green had to go upstream and try to find a place to cross to catch back up to him, and really was outfoxed by him there. And it's a fun story. But I guess the most fun story that we're talking about today occurs right around where we are now. And so it's on this creek that Althea and I are taking you on a little tour of. But as Cornwallis was trying to catch Green as they're running all over the countryside up here, the story goes that somewhere south of Winston-Salem, or south of Salem, I guess at the time, which is where we are. We're due south of Winston. We're east of Lexington. And so that's where the story's supposed to have taken place. Cornwallis made a camp with his guys. And they were just so flustered by the fact that they could not catch Green that they decided they needed to lighten the load. They just were carrying so much gear. They had wagons full of stuff. And by far the heaviest thing they had was the loot. As they'd been going, kind of running around the Carolinas, pillaging a little bit, they had been taking gold and silver and jewels and stuff like that from wherever they quartered and beat up on people or what have you. And so the story is there's a couple of barrels full of treasure that Cornwallis decided he needed to jettison and come back for. So they made a little cache out on this creek, maybe right here where we're at. Nobody knows. But somewhere on the banks of this creek, Lord Cornwallis got a couple of his guys to dig a hole in the bank and to bury these 2 barrels of gold there. And then he went off and he finally caught Green up in Greensboro, what's today Greensboro, named after the man himself, at the Battle of Guilford Courthouse. And so for those of y'all that know, Green lost that battle tactically, but strategically, that chasing Green around North Carolina, catching up to him, and in a really hard fought battle that kind of ended with Cornwallis losing a lot of men. He ends up moving on up to Virginia and gets to Yorktown and gets his ass handed to him by General George Washington, the father of our country, and surrenders up there. And that's all she wrote, guys. So right here, not only is there potential for a big cache of gold, there's been people that claim they found it in the past. Nobody's ever produced the evidence. But you know, it's a piece of local lore for us, but really matters in the grand scheme of things. And I thought the version Harrison wrote was pretty neat because he tells the story, and you guys need to go look this up. I'll put a link in this video, but look up the article he wrote, because he tells the story kind of through the eyes of a houndsman out here chasing coons down the riverbanks back in the 19th century, I believe. And it tells this particular story of this gold. And the idea is that the gold, the guards either perished somehow in their service to Cornwallis while they were guarding this cache, or went on to Guilford Courthouse and got killed. But either way, the gold is now protected by the ghost of these British soldiers that did not survive the war. And if you come out here at night, you might be visited by their apparition in the form of or apparitions in the form of some green glowing orbs running up and down here. Some folks say they can hear the sound of the barrels rolling down a hill. Apparently dogs get a little weird, start running around and acting crazy. But that's it. This is a neat place to be. It's growing up. It's got a lot of people that ain't from here, so that makes it a little extra special to be from here. But I don't reckon it matters all that much either. You know, it's just a physical thing. It's just stuff at the end of the day. It doesn't mean near as much as the people we have in our lives and our spiritual life. But I think it's pretty common for those of us that are connected to a place like this to feel a sense of spiritual connection to the place we're from. But it is a really pretty place. You know, the leaves aren't popping quite as hard in this creek here as they were out on the lake, but either way, it's still pretty. But I think what we're going to do is turn it around and end it there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that little story. And Althea and I are going to pull up on the bank and maybe point this camera at us for a little bit while we sit and wait on a squirrel. I guess we'll talk a little bit about some of the ways we might employ our companion gundogs. And because I didn't get my sweet trip to the grouse woods this year, and apparently the woodcock hit them just right. So all my buddies that went up to our normal spot up in the North Woods really timed the woodcock migration perfectly, and just were in oodles and oodles of them. The grouse numbers were really good, so I got a lot of updates, and that's okay. It's nice to live vicariously through your buddies from time to time. I had plenty of work to keep me busy finishing up that last class, and I'm looking forward to my next class. Something about just being productive feels good sometimes too. I always feel a little guilty when I leave on those trips. I know I'm leaving my wife with a lot of work with our kid, and of course you're spending money when you're on trips like that, and you ain't making money, so it's kind of a double whammy anytime you go do fun stuff when you're a business owner. And even if you do pretty good and you set yourself up for it, I don't know, if you're like me, you're just never really comfortable feeling like you can go spend money and not make it. So we stayed home. We made a little more money than we would have otherwise, and we spent a whole lot less. And so that's a good thing. But one of the ways I will employ my companion gundog when I'm home like this, and woodcock aren't in season and ducks aren't in season, is just to get out and kick around for the small game that is in season, or help my buddies track their deer they shot with a bow. We didn't get to track one last night, but my buddy got one, so I got to help him get it out of the woods. And we'll probably wait till gun season and maybe we'll set up and try to get us a deer at some point. But with squirrel hunting, you know, when you look at Althea especially, she is by no means what you might consider a squirrel dog in the traditional sense. But one thing she is really good at is sitting extremely still. She's better at being still and quiet than I am, obviously, if you've paid any attention to what I do on this thing. And so we'll go out and we'll kind of slip through the woods together, and she still hunts with me. And she'll either heel with me as we move slow through the woods. It's been weird. Like I told you earlier, it's been super dry. But we've had a giant mass crop this year. Maybe the biggest mass crop I've ever seen. There are, red oaks on the hills, just big, juicy, size of a plumber's thumb. Red oaks, white oak, acorns as well. On the flats, hickory nuts everywhere, and so the squirrels are and I'm reckoning the deer, whatever else eats acorns and hickory nuts is doing well. But there's just nuts everywhere, and I don't know if that's playing any role in the fact that I'm just not seeing squirrels this year. They're just not moving hardly at all. So I was a little excited with this light rain we got going today, that hopefully remains a light rain until we get back to the shoreline, that we'd see a few more squirrels today. And I went out this morning and really still nothing. So I guess they're just fat and happy laid up in their dens. And so we'll go change the batteries out. And by the way, batteries out in this brand new to me action cam that I was able to purchase with the funds we made on Patreon. So for all my patrons, thank you very much. And what I'll do is try to continue to make, when I make these videos or podcasts, a little bonus material for you guys each time. An incentive to stay on. I'll keep trying to post the training journals there, following a few of the dogs, and that's going well. But I really like that. And so it took us several months to come up with a few $100 to buy a new action cam and a new lav mic. But I think the setup is really nice, and from what I've tested so far, it looks good. We got a little wider angle. I don't know if that focal length makes you guys happy or it doesn't. I don't know. But you're welcome to give me feedback. But I guess if you want to support any of this stuff I do like this, go over there and check out my Patreon, Grayson Guyer's Lost Highway Gundogs. And so we'll sign it off here. And if you got any questions, reach out to me. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I'll try to come up with another one to tell you next time. Take care.